Hello, everyone. Welcome to the MuseScore Café for today, Wednesday, March 18th, 2020. And my name is Marc Sabatella. I'm the Director of Education for MuseScore. And this is my weekly series of informal video chats that I do where we pick some topic to talk about and kind of just talk about it and demonstrate things, and people who are watching live can be checking in. And so I'm hoping we have some people here checking in live. As usual, I need to do my little sound check. Beautiful. I hear myself. That's all that matters. Okay. So I am. It's funny because for some reason, I had this notion, oh, well, with everything that's going on, I should probably cancel the cafe. But then I was thinking, well, wait a minute, why? This is exactly the sort of thing that is maybe needed and especially appropriate right now. I mean, think about it. What most of us are being asked to do is stay home and do things online. Well, this is perfect then, right? So, didn't expect to be. Oh, yeah. So Howard, time changed for us. We have our daylight savings time, and that happened actually a week ago. And so I mentioned something about it then. But there you go. Glad you figured it out. This is the time it'll be. It's still 10:30 a.m. for me. It always is, but it depending on when other people go into daylight savings time, it's could be different for you guys. Okay, so yeah, it's funny because last week at this time, I had only an inkling that I had heard rumors that some schools were possibly going to be canceling classes or moving online. And then very quickly after that, within hours after that, we started getting the notification that the school that I'm teaching at was moving to online. And then some of the other events that I was doing also got canceled or told that, oh, well, we're going to do an online version of that also. So yeah, just an amazing number of things have happened in the last week, obviously, and so yeah, let's just celebrate the fact that what we have here, the ability to sit at home with your computer and make music with all the social distancing you want. You can have a whole orchestra if you want, play your music without anyone having to sit within 6 feet of each other, which is really nice. And then we can have these conversations like we're having here, and we can. There's all sorts of things that can be done online, training online, community wise. So yeah, let's just kind of celebrate these facts. So when I say let's celebrate them, it's not like I have a specific agenda here. It's going to be kind of a free flowing thing. Sometimes I have notes to myself. Oh, these are the things I want to make sure I cover. I will very much want. I'm using a new feature. Well, I don't know if it's new in YouTube, but I only found out about it, where I can pin a message to the top of the chat. So if I did that right, there's a message pinned up here that is encouraging people to share your own music. And so, I mean, if you've got a score on musescore.com or, some other music, it doesn't have to be something from MuseScore, but of course that is our theme, but whatever. Music is music, and if it's going to serve our purposes, great. So feel free to just post links in the chat here. From what I understand, if you post a link, it doesn't automatically turn into a link, so other people can't click it. But we can certainly copy and paste into browsers, and I can do that, and we can broadcast some other people's music. So yeah, I figure we can just play some music, talk about it, talk about music making, talk about how we're adapting. I guess I've been talking. I'm going to play some music now. So you all have heard this piece probably many times before. This piece is the piece that I wrote to be the demo song for MuseScore 1.2, maybe. I should remember this, but I've actually forgotten. And so it was the demo song that loaded when you started MuseScore for several years, up until MuseScore 2 came out, and then we replaced it with the blank score. And I wrote it just to be a demo score. And so the assignment I was given in writing this was to make sure I included lots of bling, I think was the term Nicola used, that it should have interesting things like a pickup measure, tempo markings, tempo changes, arpeggios, articulations, key changes, triplets, multiple voices. We wanted to have everything that MuseScore could do kind of demonstrated in one page. And then my task that I gave myself was, now let's see if I can make some music out of that. So the piece is under a minute long. Most of you heard it before, but many people have said that they really enjoyed this piece and have found it comforting, and I guess I would agree with that. So let's just hear 50 seconds of music here. Now, this isn't doing what I want. Hold on. You all can hear me, obviously, but I have set up my microphone here, and I thought I had set it up because if I'm going to be playing this out, I wanted it to be using the computer's audio, and I had set all this up, but I think I then rebooted or did something that messed up where my speakers were going. So I just need to go here and reset that. By the way, what you're seeing here is MuseScore. You might not recognize it as MuseScore, but what you're seeing on screen here is MuseScore. If you want, you can see, well, look, there's the inspector. Look, there's the palettes, right? I've turned all that off. I've turned off the toolbars, etc. If I right-click up here, you can see I've unchecked all the toolbars. I actually created myself a workspace that I call clean, and you can do that here with new. Before you did that, if I switch back to one of my own, one of the regular workspaces, let's say the basic workspace, you'll see the control here, and then there's a plus sign there to create a new workspace. So what I've decided is, it's all well and good when you're editing music and really in that process to have all this stuff there, but sometimes it's just really nice to have a clean workspace just to focus on the music. And if you're just going to be playing the music, oops, I switched back accidentally. If you're just going to be playing music, there's something that's kind of nice about this. So anyhow, this is a thing that's been in MuseScore for a while, the ability to do this. When you create the workspace, a dialog pops up. In fact, let's just do that. Let's learn something while we're at it. I'm going to create yet another workspace and then not really do it. If I say new workspace, you give it a name, but then you can also say what additional things. Usually the workspace is just about remembering the palettes, I think, and one or two other things. But what I'm doing is I'm saying I want the toolbars and the GUI components, meaning things like which windows are open, like whether the inspector was open, whether the palettes were actually open or not, and some other things like that. So by checking the toolbars and the GUI components boxes here, the workspace is going to remember those settings. So my clean workspace remembers the fact basically that I turned off all of those things. So there we go. Can you all hear the music? So let me make sure. Are you all hearing these notes? I am. I believe you will be too. So I'm just going to start playing the music because I'm pretty sure it's all there. Yeah, everything looks like it's all set. Okay, good. Thank you, Robert. So there you have it. That's Reunion. It was written again just to be a demonstration, but it sort of took on additional meaning for me. I'll tell you, like, personally, it was an honor to have been chosen to write this piece for MuseScore. This was really early on in my involvement with the project. And so I was just really touched and to be asked to write this, and so I really wanted to write something that would make a good demonstration, but that I could, everyone could really feel good about. And I've gotten so much wonderful feedback about this piece and how much people have enjoyed it. People have arranged it for other ensembles, and it's it's a comforting piece. I don't know how to explain it more than that. Um, there's any number of musical aspects to it that we could maybe say have to do, could cause that, but I don't know. It's in a major key. It's just got a pleasing balance of tension and release. So thanks, Orlando. Um, so I didn't specifically write it to be a comforting piece. I wrote it just to demonstrate things. And frankly, when I wrote it, my only reservation was, gee, it should probably be something more peppy and energetic to be a demo song. But I don't know. This is what came out, and I don't regret it. So let's see how the blank pictures. Oh yeah, yeah. So let's take a look at this. Uh, I have here a in the original version of Reunion, I couldn't do it quite as cleverly as this, but notice how my ties are broken here, because originally those ties would have just gone right through those notes, and I think the original demo version, that's how it worked. So I have basically uh, an image here. It's just a blank image that I created. Let me put it up here, and so you can see that without that image there, the ties do go through. But then I move this image right on top of where I want the ties to be broken, and it breaks the ties. But notice you can still see the notes shining through. Well, here is where we do want our inspector, so I'll bring up my inspector. What I did is a trial and error sort of thing, but stacking order here is the key. This controls whether something is opaque. It doesn't control whether it's opaque, but if you imagine MuseScore is drawing things one at a time from sort of bottom to top. It draws the staff lines first, then it draws notes, and then it draws arpeggios, and then it draws the staff. I don't remember the exact order. But anyhow, what I had to do was get the stacking order of this image. So this is just an image, and I think I created this just by using the image capture tool. So of course now I'm going to wish that I wasn't in my clean workspace for a minute. So let me get out of it, and because I actually hid the toolbars, I need to use the menu here to switch back to a regular workspace, and that's fine. So I have this thing, and I think I did it by using the image capture tool, and I think I just grabbed myself a appropriate size piece here and then used Control C to copy, and then I went over here and pasted it, and there's my image, right? So one of the things I did first, notice as I move it, things are kind of moving around. Well, that's automatic placement. So I'm going to press the equal sign to disable automatic placement on the thing with it selected. There we go. And now it's able to move around without affecting anything else. And then it's just a matter of playing with this stacking order. And what I started doing was just started decreasing it. I think when we go back to defaults, by defaults, notice it's like it's drawn on top of everything else. As I started decreasing the numbers, let me try that again. I have to click off of it and click on before the number updates. That's an annoying feature that well, it is what it is. But as I start decreasing it, notice the dots just showed up. And then if I keep decreasing this, I'm just holding, now the rallentando showed up. And, look at that. Then the tenuto shows up, then the notes show up, and then, more notes. Oh, the ledger line showed up, then the accidentals, then the arpeggio, and eventually the staff line. So depending on what your stacking order is, that determines what shows through. So this was just a matter of playing with the stacking order to get the notes and ledger lines to show through, but not the ties. And then I have another one down here, which is another image in which I definitely wanted the staff lines to show through also. And so I think its stacking order is different. This one's 1020. This one's 1005. So anyhow, that's some of the trickery I did to get this effect of having the ties. Let me if I undo all my changes, just keep undoing. Eventually, I'll get back to where this was. And yeah, so then you see that the ties are broken through nicely there. So that's what that is. Okay. Yeah, so there's something nostalgic about the piece, right? And the title, Reunion, I don't know. I don't even remember, to be honest, where I got the title from. Let me think. Was this 2013? Because if this was 2013, that would have been the year of my 30-year high school reunion. I've just dated myself, but there you go. 2013. That might have, is that the copyright date on this? No, it's earlier than that, right? Well, maybe we were starting to think about it. I don't know. Who knows where that title came from, to be honest. But yeah, there is a sort of nostalgia to the sound, and so that's, I'm sure, had something to do. So inspired to arrange the classic Mario Brothers underground theme in a funk setting. Well, feel free to paste me in a link, and we can hear that. I'm willing to hear whatever anyone wants to do. All right, so Jay is now asking about corruption. So what I always do is I Google for MuseScore fix corrupt, because I remember that there is a nice article and it shows up right away when you put anything like that. But MuseScore fix corruption or corrupt file or corruption, whatever. Just type in anything like that into a search engine, and the first link that comes up is a really nice one. So I'm going to post that in the so I don't actually have the chat up in here. I have it on my other computer, which I keep forgetting is a thing. So let me quickly do that. Get the chat going over here. Recent YouTube issues. I didn't ask for that, did I? Okay, I obviously went to the wrong place. It's the cafe dashboard I want, not my channel dashboard. All right, so I select, I go to my chat. I've been popping this thing out so it's just in a separate window, which simplifies things a bit. There you go. So there's some really good advice there on how to fix a score containing corruptions. So the details of how to do it all kind of, well, they differ according to how the thing got corrupt and what's actually wrong with it. Your ace in the hole is usually delete the measure containing the corruption. Now, sometimes the corruption is so bad that simply clicking that measure to select it will crash the program, in which case maybe you select a measure before and a measure after and delete them and then insert new measures. But often you don't need to do that. Sometimes just deleting the contents of the measure, just selecting the measure, hitting delete, and re-entering it does the trick. Sometimes you'll see where the note is that's off, and you, oh wow, look, this measure's too short, and it's because this note here is supposed to be a half note, but for some reason it's only showing up as a quarter note. I don't know. There's usually some amount of detective work, and this article kind of helps you through that. And if you want, you can feel free to post a score that you'd like to see corruptions fixed on, and we can take a look at that, because why not? We're going to do whatever we need to do here today. All right, so shared that above. Suggest using the audio source. Okay, Arthur, where's Arthur? You shared it. Do I see a link? All right. What am I missing? Oh. What is this? Welcome to live chat. Is this okay? This must be what I'm sorry. I'm not quite. I don't actually see a link, and so maybe that didn't show up. But what I do see is this YouTube video, and I'm gonna click here and see what happens. Because is this gonna take me somewhere useful? No, it doesn't. So I'm still a little confused. All right. So Arthur, is this on MuseScore.com? So is it should I go to MuseScore.com and then um, select that? All right, so let's do that. Let's go to MuseScore.com, and then I am now searching for TUALA. Oh God, what did I do? TUALA Latin Overture. All right, and I'm looking for a version. Oh, right here. Does that look good? Yeah, okay, so links. I guess there must be some clever thing in the chat that makes it, if there's a link, it won't show up. So, how about this? Try to fake it. See if you can delete the HTTPS part at the beginning and see if that tricks the system. Or see if posting it in a comment in the video rather than a chat. See if that works. Um, that might be the case. Anyhow, I'm sorry. It works for me, but I could see why maybe it's being disabled for you guys. All right, so I'm going to select the source. Is that in here? You can see how often I do this. Audio sources. I want to use, yeah, that it already is beautiful. All right, so let's play this. Assuming it hasn't started yet. Oh, here we go. Oh, nice. Yeah, Arthur. All right, brilliant. I'll let the applause keep going here. Actually, sorry, I didn't know if I just stopped it, but yeah, that was great. Wonderful piece. And I'm curious also. I you may have said, and I missed it, if that was actually commissioned by them, or you wrote it and then approached them, or you approached them and then wrote it. Kind of curious to know how that came about. And I'll tell you, we can all talk about any experiences we have with that. Um, and I mentioned that I did manage to grab the link to the whatever the other piece was that I found the link to. Um, was Mr. Music Guy? Is that you? I don't. I will refer to people by their official handles on here unless you give me a name. So feel free to tell me a name here. But meanwhile, I'm going to come over here and check out the Super Mario's thing. Jack, maybe. We're gonna play this, and it's just a couple minutes long. So I'll talk just a minute or so, and then we'll hit the play button on this. All right. Let's see. Conductor suggested they would play "If You Composed It." Great. Um, oh, nice. And then you got a commission out of it. That's fantastic. Yeah, so unfortunately, I'll have to keep explaining this a couple times. We went into daylight savings time 2 weeks ago. So actually, this is the second or third week of the new time, and I think so. That means for me, it's always 10:30. But anyhow, that's just the way it is. So sorry about that. But of course, it's always there in reruns in syndication. Okay, so next up, we're just going to hear this piece of this arrangement of the Super Mario theme. Nice. All right, really nice. So yeah, I'm one of the people who doesn't know this. I just mentioned, I had an Atari video game system back in the '70s, so I've already dated myself. I might as well just continue on that thread as if the gray in the beard hasn't already clued you in approximately where I'm at. Um, so yeah, that's really nice. So I'm assuming that the original didn't quite sound like that. Um, but yeah, that is really cool. Um, so so we've been talking about the live performance thing, and one of the best piece of advice I can give as far as composing for ensembles or having any opportunity to have it performed is first find the ensemble that needs the music and then write for them. Don't write a piece for some random ensemble and then hope to find an ensemble that fits it, right? So what you've got here is a reasonably standard sort of jazz combo here that's just two horns and rhythm section, or a horn funk band. So at a school, so I was asking about school, um, if if as part of the homeschooling, I know sometimes people will set up some program where you are associated with some high school for the purpose of things like ensembles and all. So if you have access to a school that has a jazz ensemble or something, then there's a pretty good chance that if you handed it to them, they would be able to do it. Now, of course, they probably don't use exactly this instrumentation. It would be a larger band usually, but they might have a smaller ensemble, or they might break it down to just the smaller ensemble for the purpose of this performance. So school ensembles are great for this sort of thing, especially if you're in school. I mean, if you're in school and have a connection with that school, that's great. So at high school, usually you have access to a concert band, a marching band, and a jazz band, as well as choirs. You'll have a variety of different choirs that will be available to you at a high school. The same at a college, although usually if it's a big enough university, you'll also have access to an orchestra and a variety of chamber groups. By chamber groups, I mean things like string quartets. So, for instance, when I was teaching, when I was a student at University of Denver, I was a composition student, and all of my pieces I was able to have performed by actual string quartets and actual. I didn't write a choir piece, but I wrote a five-piece vocal arrangement for a five-piece vocal ensemble, and jazz big band pieces and orchestra pieces and so forth, and they would all be performed. I mean, I shouldn't say every single thing I ever wrote got performed, but there was an avenue for it. So when you're in school, if you're a music major, there's usually a pretty automatic path there. But even if you're not a music major, or even if you're not currently in school, there are still schools nearby where you're living probably that would be open to this, and there's community orchestra. So for orchestras and concert bands and choirs for that matter, there's any number of community-based large ensembles like that. Smaller ensembles would be a little harder to find, like a community string quartet looking for music. On the other hand, there might be a professional string quartet around that's looking for music. Certainly there's any number of professional jazz groups and funk groups that maybe would be into doing this. um, so um, the as far as any practical advice, but no, this is great arrangement, and I mean, I don't know the piece, but it sounds great. The only thing that I might say is realistically, uh, chances of getting a good performance increase when you write rhythm section parts that are simplified a little bit. Uh, and by simplified, I mean if you just write out the basic figure, like here. If you just write out that figure and then from then on just give them chord symbols and tell them, okay, just keep going with that same rhythm. And the same with the bass line. It's a similar bass line, and if you write it out just in a few key places, but then give them chord symbols to deal with, I think most people who do this kind of music will find that easier than if you give them all the notes. There's also some notational things that are worth pointing out here. This this measure that's highlighted right here is actually, from a notational perspective, not written right. This, like this F in the bass part, starts on the and of 2 and continues over to 3. Well, that needs to be actually written as an eighth note. So this needs to be 4/8 notes, E, C, E, F, and then the F tied to another F here, and then F, E, C, B flat, or B, I guess it's E flats also, but anyhow, 4/8 notes, 4/8 notes with a tie there. It's exactly the same rhythm, but it ends up being infinitely easier to read because we read by pattern recognition. And so actually, if I flip over to MuseScore and just write write out that rhythm, I'll just pretend but it doesn't really even matter what the notes are. F, then tied. So this is what that rhythm should look like. That way we see bum 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 bum. And if people counting rhythms when they're playing if they do this often and well, we're counting beats, we're counting big beats. We're going 1, 3, because we know that we can divide the measure up in our heads, and we're going to see 4/8 notes on this side of the measure, 4/8 notes on that side of the measure. And so by dividing it up this way, I then can more physically see that there's 4/8 notes that form the first half of the measure, and then 4/8 notes that form the second half of the measure, and that really helps parse in my head what that rhythm is. And then the same is true of the half note here in the middle of this measure. This should be an eighth note and then tied, and actually it'll be an eighth note tied to a half, so just the same thing you have there but reversed. So there's any number of things like this that are important when you're creating the parts to give to musicians to read, to make sure they're readable. So I also see a question about the custom sound font. How do you update the score without re-updating it? Well, I think you do re-upload it. So when you use the Save Online feature, you're not actually uploading the sound font. You're uploading the sound for that score. It basically uploads an MP3 file. So it's not uploading the sound font. It's uploading the MP3 for that score. So if you change the score, you need to keep Save Online checked when you re-upload it, because when you update the score, then it'll do that. So anytime you make any change to the score, you will need to make sure that you still have the upload score audio box checked. Now you can make changes. If I go to one of my scores, if I go to one of my scores over here, and I use the edit score button. So like I go to my Pathétique thing that I was showing y'all last week, and I say update this score. Then this gives me the opportunity to update just things about the score, like the title and the description and so forth, and the tags and all this business. And you can then do that without needing to re-upload the audio. But if you actually make a change to the score, then you'll need to re-upload the audio. Yeah, that's some advice there. I will, if there's any other music that we'd like to check out, I'm happy to do that. I don't know how long I'll just keep talking a little bit here. We've been going for a while already, but I said I didn't really have a particular I don't know, agenda here other than just let's just keep calm and MuseScore on, as I gave in the title of this thing. Let's just keep making music, keep talking about music, keep enjoying the community that we have, and in particular, the fact that it's an online community is something that we can continue to take advantage of, right? So things like the groups here. When I click community here on MuseScore.com, and there's all these different groups for discussion. So these are places for discussion of music. If you go to MuseScore.org, then there's all the discussions about the software itself. So, you managed to get a quasi link posted here. Great. That didn't require me to so if I'm not mistaken, I just need to change that to .com and good things will happen. Yes. Very nice. Okay, so I will start this going, and let me just see if I have any other things that I wanted to say before I return to just chatting by typing. Um, uh, yeah, I was just talking about the idea of public performance. Obviously, public performance is essentially not a thing right now. I mean, as a I don't perform a whole lot right now where I'm at in my life. I've sort of, I shouldn't say retired from it, but I've sort of put myself in a position where I'm more about the teaching and in particular about the online teaching. I do direct a community ensemble, and normally we rehearse on Wednesday nights, but that's off, at least for tonight, and then, play it by ear after that. We supposedly have a performance coming up next month, 50-50 chance about whether that's actually going to happen. So that's online communities like this are really nice because then they're not going to be shut down by that kind of virus. Unfortunately, they get shut down by the other kind of virus, right? The computer virus. And so the school where I'm at right now, we've now had almost the entire year just messed up by two different things. And we were hacked in the fall, and it shut down the computer systems, and all we had was the in-person things. And you might think, well, that's what it's supposed to be, but I mean, registration systems dropped. Everything was shut down. Our entire computer systems were shut down for like 2 months, starting from like 2 weeks before school started into about 2 months into, and it's still not even 100% back up yet. And that was the fall. And now this year, obviously, we're shut down now to another virus. So it's really been sort of an interesting experience there at the school. All right, so let me come back to chat in this window so that because I just went to the wrong place to get that. So let me get. All right, so Jay, I see that you have a piece also, and I will get to that in a second. Because message retracted, or just if you post again, I can see the link even if you can't. So if you repost it, I think I can get there. But what someone else did that made it work, it looks like, is just took the .com off of the MuseScore, and that caused it to post okay, and then I'm able to cut it and copy and paste it into here. So anyhow, let's hear this waltz here. Battery. Battery. Sorry, guys. Now it's list. Well, that caught me off guard. That's great. I love that ending. Be awesome to hear a live performance of this. Have you done the one? Are you enough? Are you a pianist who can be doing that yourself, or is that yeah? So finding a solo pianist. There's another thing. Students. There's any number of piano students, and not just in schools, but people taking private lessons that could possibly be up for doing performances if you write solo piano music. That's like the easiest to get any sort of performance of, probably. Um, all right, so I'm looking for where I put my chat here. All right, cool. Um, all right, so let's just I'm just gonna keep doing this. I got some pieces here, and since this one's up already and it's nice and short, I'm just gonna put on "Do It" here. Nice. So, for people who aren't aware, I'm assuming that this was created using the MDL, the MuseScore drumline extension to MuseScore, which has not only a whole lot of special symbols available in the palettes, but also these really, really nice sampled sounds recorded by members of various different, like, kind of professional drum and bugle corps. So, yeah, so that you can get some really uh, probably if when you're writing using MDL, you probably get closer to the sound of a real ensemble that way than a typical sound font of wind instruments and so forth, or stringed instruments do. Realistically, percussion instruments, and by which I include piano, um, and to a lesser extent, maybe guitar, plucked stringed instruments, can be easier to get a convincing sample of. And so when you use the computer playback, it will often feel like, oh, well, this is sort of close to the real thing because it is a recording of the real thing. And realistically, no two people playing the same piano can sound different just playing one note. It's just one thing. But the problem with wind and stringed instruments is there's so many variations in the attack, how you use your breath and how you use your tongue, and from note to note and so forth. And so it's always going to sound much more mechanical with wind and stringed instruments. So let's see. All right. So I'm going to try to just keep playing music because why not? That's what we have to do here. And so I'm just going to keep playing some stuff. And I see one from Mike also. I'll get to that. and we'll just keep going for a little bit, and hopefully it all just works out. So I'm assuming that if I do musescore.com and then do this, oh crap, oh that's because it's musescore.com, not musescore comma com. Beautiful. All right, so I'm gonna start thinking time wise now. So sorry, I know we just well, we didn't have a plan, and we got to hear a lovely live performance that I don't begrudge at all. But I'll start playing some music, cue up some other things, see how things are going to time out, and then we'll just go as long as we feel like. Nice. Nice arrangement. Um, yeah, I like. So Tchaikovsky obviously is yeah, well, he's actually one of my favorite composers. So very cool. All right, I'm just gonna keep playing some music and then checking and see what else we have in comments. But here's the piece that Jay we finally managed to find here. Oh wait a minute. Did you say there was a thingamajiggy? No. Okay. All right. So somewhere there's a video. I think you said, but let's have this version. Really nice job, Jay. So I don't know the original piece here, but I'm going to post you a link to a friend of mine's webpage, Akash Mittal. Um, and I'm just going to suggest that you check him out at some point. He's a friend of mine who is one of many people I know actually who's doing kind of cross. He is of Indian descent, and he uh, has a jazz background and also a classical background now that he's been developing, and is really just doing really interesting and creative things involving blending all of these things. And yeah, he's really one of my favorite people in the world, and I definitely recommend checking him out and seeing the kinds of things that he's doing involving blending of these music. So it's really interesting because so much Indian music is written without a sense of Western harmony, and yet can be adapted into a setting in which this can work. And so it's really interesting to hear different people's approaches. So thank you for that. So I think I'm not okay. So the I is this composer, this person isn't actually here, right? This was suggested as a listening thing, but this person isn't actually here at the moment. Is this true for the Silk Road? Because I think I kind of want to maybe wrap up and get the last piece that I see that was put by someone here. Um, so let's go. With. Um, so I'm going to just say your name as Mirabilos, which I've never really known how to pronounce the handle, and I think I mentioned to you once we have the governor of Colorado is Jared Polis, so I've always imagined your name being parsed as Mirabilos, but I guess that's not how you intend it to be. But in any case, that's how I've intended that. That's how I've always imagined this being pronounced. Before I play the music, let's just make sure because I'm sure that I've probably missed a couple comments in here. Okay, good. So evening song, right? Abendlied, if I remember my German correctly. Okay, so there is a question here about short course for online with certificate. So I should mention, many of you know that I do, when I teach online, I have a couple different courses. I have a course, the Mastering MuseScore course, to teach you MuseScore. I wouldn't call it short. It's like 100 individual lessons of like 10 minutes each. It's like 9 hours of lecture, and I can issue a certificate upon completion. Yes, it's not, it's a certificate. It's not connected with any university or anything, but it is a thing you can do. But I also have, if you're interested, a music theory course I've been developing. I was developing it last fall when we were having all those computer issues, and I was using it in my teaching. As I've mentioned, I was developing it also to be accessible to blind students. We had a blind student in the class, and the regular teaching materials were not accessible. So I've been designing the course to be accessible, and there's been a whole lot of other things going on the last few months, but now with everything going on with the coronavirus, I've been really focusing on getting that happening, and I've just uploaded a couple hours worth of video just in the last 2 days, and I expect to have my theory course all online very soon. Yeah, you're welcome, Jay. All right, so let me just do my self-promotion thing here and put in the link to my school. masteringmusescore.com, and yeah, so that's where you can find any stuff. All right, so let's go on with Abendlied, and so again, I hope people are finding this just a little bit of community, a little bit of just enjoying music together but apart, as a useful thing. And maybe next week, who knows what the world will be like next week, but we'll either do more of the same or we'll have some normal topic to talk about or whatever. It's all good. But let's hear the Abendlied to close out with. Oh, is there? I should be checking. Did you say there was another recording? No, okay, so it's the MuseScore audio. Here we go. All right. Yeah. So good evening, people. Good morning. Good afternoon. Um, So, I should mention, since we're on the subject of time, when I originally started this cafe was I think almost 2 years ago. Um, I chose the time I chose, well, based also on I think other commitments that I had going on, but I was looking for a time that would work um, for most of the world, or at least most of the MuseScore world, and so I wanted something that at least would be a time when people in the United States, where I'm at, would be awake, where people in Europe would be awake, and wasn't pushing things too far for Europe. I mean, for Asia. Howard, what time is it for you? Well, it's an hour earlier right now, but I think Howard wins the latest time award. I think. Um, but in any case, yeah, it's impossible to have one time. And I thought about like rotating the times a little bit, but I figured that would just confuse people. So yeah, this is the time that we've been going with, and it seems to be working. So anyhow, on that lovely note, I think we'll close out here and figure out what we're gonna do next week. 2 a.m. Yeah. So good night, Howard. Good night, everyone. Good day, everyone. Um, and yeah, I will hopefully check in with y'all next week. See ya. Bye.